I signed my name on the last line and placed the pen beside the divorce papers. 3 years of marriage. 3 seconds to end it. Across the table, Kang Do-hyun did not move. He sat in a tailored black suit, his hands folded in front of him, his expression as cold as the winter rain against the windows. The most feared man in Seoul watched me erase his name from my life, and he said nothing. The lawyer cleared his throat. That completes Mrs. Mercer's portion. Mr. Kang, your signature will finalize the divorce. Do-hyun stared at the place where I had written my name. His jaw tightened, but he still said nothing. I waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Some foolish part of me hoped he would finally look up and say that our marriage had mattered. That I had mattered. He did not. I stood and smoothed the front of my cream dress. Send the finalized copy to my attorney. My voice did not shake. That was the one victory I allowed myself. I turned and walked toward the door. I did not beg. I did not ask him to explain 3 years of silence. I did not give him one last chance to hurt me. My hand had just touched the door handle when something cracked behind me. I stopped. A thin line of blood ran between Do-hyun's fingers. The crystal glass he had been holding had shattered in his hand. The lawyer rushed toward him. Do-hyun did not seem to notice. His eyes were fixed on me. For the first time in 3 years, the coldness was gone. There was something else in his face. Something raw. Something almost frightened. But pain had already taught me not to build hope from a man's expression. You should have said something before I signed, I whispered. His lips parted. No words came. So I opened the door and walked away. I did not know that there was a velvet ring box inside his coat. I did not know he had carried it every day for almost 3 years. And I did not know that after I left, the most controlled man in Seoul sat alone in that conference room for 47 minutes, staring at my signature like it was a death sentence. I only knew that he had watched me leave. And once again, he had chosen silence. 2 days later, a black sedan followed my car through the rain. I recognized it immediately. Do-hyun owned 12 identical cars, but this one had a small silver mark beneath the rear window. It was his personal vehicle. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. I was heading to the airport to confirm my flight to Atlanta. I had packed everything I owned into 4 suitcases. Everything except the memories. Those seemed determined to follow me. The sedan moved ahead and stopped across the road at a red light. The rear door opened. Do-hyun stepped into the rain without an umbrella. Cars honked behind him. He ignored them. He crossed the street and reached my window just as the light changed. I lowered it halfway. Rain ran down his face and soaked the collar of his black shirt. Sanaa. He rarely used my first name. For 3 years, I had been Mrs. Kang in public and Miss Mercer in private. Hearing my name in his voice hurt more than it should have. Move away from the car. Do not get on that plane. My chest tightened. You had 3 years to say something. His hand rested against the top of my window. I know. You had the lawyer's office. I know. You had the moment before I signed. His eyes closed briefly. I know. Then why didn't you stop me? His face changed. For 1 second, I saw a man fighting against something inside himself. Then the walls returned. I cannot explain this here. A bitter laugh escaped me. You never can. Sanaa, I spent 3 years waiting for you to finish sentences you never started. That was not because you meant nothing. You told me our marriage was a transaction. I lied. The word hung between us. Simple. Ugly. Too late. I looked at him through the rain. Then live with what that lie cost you. The light turned green. I raised the window and drove away. In the rearview mirror, Do-hyun remained in the middle of the road. He did not chase the car. He did not send his men after me. He simply stood there, soaked and alone, as if he had finally understood that his power could not force me to stay. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I cried for the first time after I reached the airport parking garage. Not because I regretted leaving, because I still loved him. And loving a man who had made me feel invisible was the most humiliating truth I carried. If you have ever walked away because staying hurt more than leaving, subscribe. This story is for every woman who finally remembered that love should not cost her self-worth. I met Kang Do-hyun 4 years earlier in my family's restaurant. Mercer's table was small, warm, and always busy. My grandmother had opened it after moving to Seoul decades earlier. My mother kept it alive. After she died, it became mine. I cooked. I managed the books. I repaired broken chairs. I washed dishes when the staff called in sick. It was not a luxury restaurant, but it belonged to me. That mattered. Do-hyun first entered on a rainy night 10 minutes before closing. He wore a black coat and carried the kind of silence that made every other customer notice him. 2 men stood outside beneath the awning. His security. I knew who he was. Everyone in Seoul knew the Kang family. They controlled hotels, shipping companies, private clubs, and businesses no one discussed openly. Do-hyun sat alone at the corner table. "What is still available?" he asked. "Whatever I decide to cook." One of his eyebrows lifted. People did not speak to him that way. But I was tired, my feet hurt, and powerful men still needed to eat. I made him my grandmother's pepper stew with rice. He finished every bite. When I brought the bill, he looked at the handwritten recipe card sticking out of my apron. "Your recipe?" "My grandmother's." "You changed something." I stopped. No customer had ever noticed. "What makes you think that?" "The original would have used more ginger." I stared at him. For the first time, the dangerous man from Seoul almost smiled. After that, he returned every Thursday, always near closing, always alone. He never told me much, but I learned small things. He hated sweet coffee. He read contracts twice before signing. He loosened his cufflinks when he was angry. He never sat with his back to the door, and he remembered everything I said, even when he pretended not to listen. 6 months later, men connected to a rival family began pressuring me to let them use my restaurant's supply accounts. I refused. They threatened to destroy the business. Do-hyun arrived the following evening with a marriage proposal and a contract. "My name will protect the restaurant," he said. "And what do you get?" "A wife with no connection to another powerful family." I read the contract. 3 years, separate bedrooms, no expectation of affection, no interference in each other's private lives. My restaurant's ownership would remain completely mine. It seemed cold, but it seemed safe. On our wedding night, Do-hyun stood beside the window of the luxury mansion where his family lived. "This marriage is a transaction," he said. "Nothing about it needs to mean anything." I swallowed the disappointment I had no right to feel. Understood. He gave me the larger bedroom and moved into the room across the hall. For 3 years, he never crossed the distance between us. But sometimes his actions confused me. When I worked late, food appeared outside my door. When my kitchen stove broke, a new one arrived before I had called anyone. When I mentioned that my mother's necklace needed repair, it returned to me restored inside a velvet pouch. Do-hyun always denied arranging any of it. His family was easier to understand. To them, I was temporary. At dinners, his mother called me the arrangement. His father discussed Do-hyun's future marriage while I sat at the same table. His aunt once asked me to serve dessert because she assumed I was part of the staff. Do-hyun never joined their laughter, but he never stopped them either. That silence hurt more than the insults. One night, after his father suggested a real wife from a powerful Korean family, I followed Do-hyun into the library. "Is that what you want?" He did not turn around. "What?" "A real wife." His hand tightened around the glass he was holding. "This conversation is unnecessary." That is not an answer. Our agreement ends in 4 months. I waited for him to say more. He did not. That was the night I stopped hoping. A week later, Elias Rowan entered my restaurant. He was an Atlanta-based restaurant developer with an easy smile and an honest interest in my work. He tasted my food and asked about the recipes. Not the Kang family. Not Do-hyun. Me. "You should have your name on more than one building," he said. No one had ever said that to me before. Elias offered to help me open a flagship restaurant in Atlanta. The contract was fair. My ownership remained mine. My recipes remained mine. My name would be on the front door. I accepted. Then I filed for divorce. The evening before my flight, Do-hyun's mother arrived at my apartment. She entered without waiting to be invited and sat at my kitchen table. For the first time, she looked older than powerful. She placed a dark velvet box between us. "What is that?" "Something my son was too afraid to give you." I did not touch it. She opened the box herself. Inside was a ring. It was not huge or dramatic. It was elegant. A narrow gold band with a deep green stone. The exact kind of ring I had once described to my mother while standing in the kitchen at Mercer's table. My throat tightened. When did he buy it? The week after your wedding. My fingers curled beneath the table. That does not make sense. He loved you before he married you. I looked away. No. He began visiting your restaurant months before the threat started. He already knew who you were. I remembered the Thursday nights. The stew. The almost smile. The way he noticed the missing ginger. He told me it was a business arrangement. I told him it had to appear that way. Why? Our enemies watch weakness. The moment they discovered that you were not simply a contractual wife, they would have used you against him. So the solution was to let me believe I meant nothing? Her face tightened. I believed distance would keep you alive. You decided that for me. Yes. And he agreed. He believed losing your love was better than risking your safety. I finally picked up the ring. It felt heavier than it looked. He watched his family humiliate me. I know. He let me sleep across the hall, believing he regretted marrying me. I know. He protected my body while destroying my heart. She lowered her eyes. For the first time, Do-hyun's mother had no answer. He carried that ring every day, she said quietly. He planned to give it to you when the danger ended. When was that supposed to happen? She remained silent. That was the problem. There would always be another enemy, another threat, another reason for Do-hyun to hide behind silence. I closed the box. Secret love did not keep me warm in that house. I understand. No, you understand now because I left. I placed the ring back on the table. She pushed it toward me. Keep it. I do not want it. It belongs to you. No, it belongs to the man he was too afraid to become. I walked her to the door. The next morning, I boarded my flight to Atlanta. Do-hyun called once before takeoff. I watched his name flash across the screen. For 3 years, I had waited for him to call me because he wanted to hear my voice. Now I turned the phone off. Atlanta felt different. Louder. Warmer. Far enough away that I could breathe. Elias met me at the airport with flowers and the keys to the restaurant space. For the first few days, I almost believed I had escaped the life I left behind. Then I began noticing problems. A supplier cancelled without explanation. 2 investors delayed their payments. The building's owner suddenly wanted to renegotiate the lease. Elias seemed genuinely confused. I don't understand, he said. Everything was approved. Who are the main investors? He hesitated. That hesitation changed everything. Elias. I need to check something. He left the office and did not return for 4 hours. When he came back, the easy confidence was gone. He locked the door behind him. The investors are connected to a Seoul-based holding company. My stomach tightened. Which one? He gave me the name. I recognized it immediately. It belonged to one of the Kang family's oldest rivals. Did you know? No. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. Not yet. At least he was honest. He placed his phone on the desk and showed me the messages he had uncovered. The investors had instructed his company to bring me to Atlanta, gain access to my supply network, and use my restaurant as leverage against Do-hyun. I stared at the screen. So none of this was about my food. For me, it was. But not for the people funding it. No. I stood and walked toward the window. Once again, powerful men had made plans around my life without speaking to me. Does Do-hyun know? Elias nodded. He found out before you left Seoul. A laugh escaped me. It held no humor. Of course he did. He has been quietly buying out the investors. He was trying to separate your restaurant from them without destroying the deal. And he never told me. He said you would think he was trying to control you. He was controlling me. He was also protecting the business. Those things can both be true. Elias looked ashamed. I'm sorry, Sanaa. I believed him. That did not mean I could remain. I cancelled the deal. Not because Do-hyun wanted me to, because I refused to build my future on money connected to men who saw me as a weapon. What would you have done in my place? Would you believe a man who loved you in silence, or would you walk away for good? Tell me in the comments. I returned to Seoul 3 days later. Not for Do-hyun, for Mercer's table. My grandmother had built that restaurant without a powerful husband. My mother had protected it through hard years. I would not allow anyone to turn it into a battlefield. The night I returned, the Kang family was hosting a gala at their hotel. Every major business family in Seoul was present. I walked into the ballroom alone. No Elias, no bodyguards, no husband beside me. Just me. Conversation stopped as I crossed the room. Do-hyun stood near the stage beside his father. He saw me immediately. The controlled mask disappeared from his face. He moved toward me. Sanaa. I came back for my restaurant. Relief flickered in his eyes, then vanished. I know. You knew about the Atlanta investors. Yes. You interfered without telling me. Yes. You still have not learned. I am trying. His father approached us. This is not the place for a domestic argument. Do-hyun did not look away from me. No, he said. This is exactly the place. His father's expression hardened. Do-hyun. For the first time, Do-hyun raised his hand and silenced him. The ballroom went still. Do-hyun stepped onto the stage. I stayed where I was. He took the microphone. My family has referred to Sanaa Mercer as an arrangement for 3 years. His father moved toward him. Do-hyun continued. That was a lie. A murmur moved through the room. She was never temporary. She was never beneath this family. And she never needed our name to become powerful. His gaze found mine. She owned her restaurant before she became my wife. She protected her employees. She rebuilt her family's business. She stood beside me when everyone else was afraid to speak honestly. His voice tightened. And I repaid that loyalty by making her feel unwanted. The room became completely silent. I told myself I was protecting her. The truth is that I was afraid. Loving her gave my enemies something they could threaten, so I chose secrecy. He paused. That choice cost me my marriage. His father spoke from below the stage. You are embarrassing this family. Do-hyun looked at him. No, I embarrassed this family when I allowed you to disrespect my wife. Then he turned back to me. If choosing her openly costs me my position, my inheritance, or my place in this family, then take them. His mother lowered her head. His father's face went pale. Do-hyun placed the microphone down and walked toward me. The entire room waited. I did not run into his arms. I did not forgive him because he had finally said beautiful words in public. I leaned closer. That was brave. Hope appeared in his eyes. But it was not an apology. The hope disappeared. I walked past him and stepped onto the terrace. A minute later, the doors opened behind me. Do-hyun joined me. He remained several feet away. For once, he did not crowd me. You are right, he said. I know. I let my mother call you an arrangement. Yes. I let my father speak about replacing you. Yes. I introduced you as Miss Mercer because I thought using your name would hide what you were to me. It made me feel ashamed to be your wife. His face tightened. I know that now. You should have known then. Yes. The immediate agreement stopped me. He did not defend himself. He did not mention enemies. He did not use protection as an excuse. He simply accepted the damage. I watched you leave rooms believing you did not belong, he said. I told myself that if you hated me, you would be safer. But the truth is uglier. What truth? I was afraid that if I told you I loved you, you would have the power to destroy me. I looked at him. And now? You already did. His voice was quiet, not accusing, just honest. When you signed those papers, I realized I had spent 3 years protecting my power instead of protecting our marriage. He reached into his coat and removed the velvet ring box. I carried this every day. He opened it. The green stone caught the light from the ballroom. I bought it after the first meal you cooked for me as my wife. You complained that the mansion kitchen had expensive knives and no proper spice rack. Despite myself, I remembered. You heard that? I heard everything you said. Then why did you never answer? Because silence was the only thing I had been trained to trust. He closed the box. I am not asking you to forgive me tonight. Good. I am not asking you to come home. I won't. I am asking for the chance to become a man who does not make you feel alone while standing beside you. My throat tightened. That takes more than one speech. I know. It takes time. I know. And I keep my restaurant. It was never mine. My career remains mine. Yes, no secret security following me without my knowledge. He hesitated. I raised an eyebrow. No secret security, he agreed. But if there is a real threat, I tell you, you decide what protection you accept. No decisions about my life without me. Never again. I looked at the ring, then at him. I believe that you love me. His breath caught. But I do not trust the way you love. Pain moved across his face. He nodded. That is fair. I took the ring box from his hand. For a second, he looked hopeful again. Then I closed his fingers around it. Keep it until you understand the difference. I walked away. This time, he let me. The divorce became final 2 weeks later. Do-hyun signed the papers without protest. Attached to the documents was a handwritten note. I said I would respect your choices. This is the first one. I cried when I read it. Not because I wanted the marriage back. Because, for the first time, he had listened. The next 3 months changed everything. Do-hyun did not send expensive gifts. He did not buy my restaurant. He did not threaten Elias or interfere with my business. Instead, he came to Mercer's table every Thursday, 10 minutes before closing, just like he had when we first met. He sat at the corner table. He ordered whatever I decided to cook. Some nights, I joined him. Some nights, I did not. He never complained. When one of his family's companies offered me a suspiciously generous supply contract, I rejected it. Do-hyun cancelled it himself. I said no secret help, I reminded him. You were right. That became his most surprising sentence. You were right. He said it when I challenged him. He said it when I caught him slipping into old habits. He said it without anger. At the opening of my second restaurant, his father arrived without an invitation. He looked at the sign above the door. Mercer's table. You could have used the Kang name, he said. Before Do-hyun could respond, I stepped forward. My family's name built this. His father looked at Do-hyun, expecting him to correct me. Do-hyun smiled slightly. She answered you. He did not speak over me. He did not rescue me. He stood beside me and allowed me to defend what was mine. That mattered more than any public speech. Later that night, after the guests left, I found Do-hyun in the kitchen wearing an apron over his expensive black shirt. Smoke rose from a pan. What are you doing? He turned off the stove. Failing. I looked inside the pan. He had attempted my grandmother's pepper stew. It looked terrible. You burned the onions. I know. You added too much ginger. I thought you preferred more. I changed the recipe years ago. His expression softened. I remember. My chest tightened. On the counter lay the old handwritten recipe card I had carried in my apron the night we first met. The edges were worn. You kept this? You dropped it beneath my table. That was 4 years ago. I know. He looked almost embarrassed. I had it framed, but that seemed too dramatic. I laughed. The sound surprised both of us. Do-hyun stared at me like he had not heard anything more beautiful. What? I missed that. My laugh? You being happy near me. The warmth in my chest became painful. He stepped closer but stopped before touching me. I have something to ask. You already ruined dinner. How much worse can it be? His mouth curved. A real smile. Rare. Beautiful. He reached into his pocket and removed the velvet box. This time, he did not open it immediately. I carried this ring because I thought loving you silently was enough. I said nothing. It was not. No. I thought protecting you meant making every decision alone. It didn't. I thought being powerful meant never admitting fear. And now? Now I know the strongest thing I can do is tell you the truth and let you decide what happens next. He lowered himself onto one knee. There were no powerful families watching. No cameras. No contracts. Only the two of us in the kitchen my work had built. He opened the box. Sanaa Mercer, I loved you before you became my wife. I loved you while I was too afraid to say it. And I loved you enough to finally learn that you do not belong behind me or beneath my protection. His voice trembled. You belong wherever you choose to stand. Tears filled my eyes. He continued. I am not asking you to return to the marriage we had. I am asking whether we can build a new one. Honest. Equal. Real. I let him wait. Not 3 seconds this time. Long enough for him to understand that the choice was mine. Then I held out my hand. Ask me properly. His eyes softened. Sanaa, will you marry me? Yes! The word came out as a whisper. His eyes closed briefly, as if relief had passed through his entire body. He slid the ring onto my finger slowly. Then he stood. He did not pull me toward him. He waited. So I closed the distance myself. I placed my hands against his face and kissed him. It was gentle, warm, nothing hidden. When we separated, he rested his forehead against mine. "No more silence," I whispered. "Never again. And you are cleaning this kitchen." He looked at the burned pan. "I own 6 hotels, and tonight you own a sponge." He laughed. The dangerous, controlled Korean mafia boss stood in my kitchen wearing an apron, holding a burned pan, and smiling like the richest man alive. For years, I thought love was something a woman earned by waiting quietly. I was wrong. Real love does not hide you. It does not make you question your worth. It does not protect you by taking away your choices. Real love listens. It apologizes. It changes. And when Do-hyun finally placed that ring on my hand, he did not ask me to disappear inside his empire. He asked if he could stand beside me while I built mine. If you believe real love should never require a woman to lose herself, comment "Chos yourself" first. Tell me where you are watching from and subscribe for more emotional Korean mafia romance stories.